In the hours and days following the announcement of their 7th album, Reality Awaits, the Strokes, the guardians of rock and roll since the early 2000s, have turned the internet against them. Have they finally jumped the shark, like many out there believe, or are the Strokes simply rage-baiting us into the most elaborate prank in rock history? Let's discuss. Hey everyone, welcome back to AC Accidental. If this is your first time here, my name's Andrew, and AC Accidental is a channel dedicated to discussing music. Of course, from the perspective of an old millennial geezer. If you enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button at the end and help me along the illustrious path to 8 subscribers. Now we're here to talk about the Strokes, but I know not everyone grew up with the band, so most importantly, before we go any further, let's talk. Who are the Strokes? Formed in 1998 in New York City, the Strokes are a 5-piece rock band consisting of Nick Valencia on guitars, Albert Hammond Jr. also on guitars, Nikolai Fraiture on bass, Fabrizio Moretti on drums, and Julian Casablancas on vocals. At a time when grunge had begun its descent from the mainstream and was largely being replaced by nu metal and pop boy and girl bands, the Strokes decided to go in a different direction. Instead, they chose to harness a raw energy and primitive rock sound of the 60s and 70s. While the Stooges, the Velvet Underground, and the Ramones are obvious touch points, the Strokes folded in a completely new dimension into this proto-punk and garage rock revival, an incredibly keen ear for infectious pop hooks. Pair this with impeccably cool style and an almost cocky nonchalance. Come 2001, the band was heralded by UK music publications as the saviors of rock and roll, and this label stuck. I want to give a quick shout out here to a great documentary called Meet Me in the Bathroom. It touches on the early years of the Strokes and the indie rock scene that flourished in New York at the beginning of the 2000s. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. After releasing an EP, The Modern Age, earlier in the year, the Strokes' debut album, Is This It?, had a staggered worldwide release, eventually landing in the United States in October of 2001, just 1 month after the devastating 9/11 attacks brought down the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in Manhattan. In a period of global mourning and solidarity with New York City, the band's unpolished, underproduced, and raw sound from the streets of the Big Apple was immediately met with praise by critics and fans alike, ushering in a needed reprieve from the formulaic teen pop that had flooded the charts. Launching them even further into the spotlight was an iconic performance on Saturday Night Live in January 2002, where they performed a pair of songs now firmly cemented into the cultural zeitgeist, Last Night and Hard to Explain. More than 2 decades later, and with one of, if not the single best, 6 album runs of all time, what the Strokes accomplished between 2001 and 2005 is still the bar they're measured up against today, and it's that sound that people come to expect when they release new music. Their history, their legacy, and this expected sound is the primary point of friction in what we're going to dig into today. On April 6th, 2 months ago, the Strokes shared a teaser on their Instagram account officially announcing the release date of Reality Awaits, the highly anticipated follow-up to their 2020 critically acclaimed album, The New Abnormal. The teaser was vague, and the accompanying artwork was intentionally stylized like an AI reworking of a classic car advertisement. And it wasn't even clear if the tiny bit of audio included was part of the album or just in there for kicks. Despite not having much to go on, with 6 years of hype building since their last album release, social media and all of the major online music outlets immediately launched into a frenzy. People were pumped. The excitement, however, was short-lived. The very next day, the Strokes posted a link to their first single from their upcoming album, under the title Going Shopping. Like the previous teaser, this also featured artwork stylized to look like an AI knockoff of vintage advertising, this time revolving around Jolly Ranchers. The problem?
Solidarity can be difficult when you've got cool stuff to lose.
The song's vocals were slathered in Autotune, and the internet immediately came out with their pitchforks. The consensus was in, this sucked. A band known for their raw, lo-fi, underproduced rock sound is suddenly reemerging after 6 years, candy-coated in robotic Autotune. The same Autotune that single-handedly revitalized Cher's career in 1998 with the hit song Believe. The same Autotune that was exhausted in the aughts of the 2000s on club hits by T-Pain, Lil Wayne, the Black Eyed Peas, and so many others. The very same Autotune that's still heavily relied on in modern hip-hop, trap, EDM, R&B, and hyperpop songs that you'd hear at the shopping mall, in the club, and at the top of the Billboard Hot 100. In 2026, this was now the Strokes, and people weren't happy. As a massive fan of the Strokes, when I first heard the brand new single Going Shopping, I had far less of a knee-jerk reaction than most of the online discourse. I was even considering doing a full video on a topic I previously never even would have touched with a 10-foot pole, defending Autotune. But it's because I figured the Autotune in Going Shopping was likely being used as kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to emulate the poppiest, most chart-topping shopping mall-sounding vocals. This, all the while delivering poignant lyrical commentary about a programmed cycle of endless consumerism and doom shopping, a kind of retail therapy, if you will, to distract from the fact that everything sucks and the world around us is an absolute dumpster fire. And in that context, Autotune seemed like an interesting storytelling mechanism. But things turned even worse when they released a second single, Falling Out of Love. Why? Despite it being a beautiful, meandering alt-dream pop ballad, it used even heavier Autotune. No longer was this a one-off outlier. This was officially a new direction, and people were hating it. While fans were reacting as if the Strokes had personally pissed in their Cocoa Puffs, something clicked in my brain. Maybe something bigger is at play here. I started to wonder, could this just be a massive prank? Maybe the Strokes are rage-baiting us with a brilliantly delivered long-con gotcha album release. With that in mind, I started poking around the old internet to see if there was any precedent across the music industry of something like this. Was there any wide-scale hoax or trolling at this scale? Something that immediately came to mind was the late 80s pop duo from Germany, Milli Vanilli. They experienced success on the charts for 2 years before being exposed as a pair of dancer models hired by the band to be their public faces, lip-syncing performances, and not actually having anything to do with the recorded music. That said, this wasn't a prank so much as a scandal, and it completely sunk the band. In 2019, a relatively unknown indie rock band from Canada, known as Panicland, anonymously leaked a 14-song fanfiction album, magnum opus of the inglorious kind, disguising it as a leak of the upcoming Green Day album. And while a sizable chunk of Green Day's fanbase initially took the bait, it wasn't actually Green Day behind this prank, and therefore the reveal didn't really have anywhere close to a major impact. Next, there's #WeezerCoverAfrica, a Twitter campaign launched in 2017 by a young Weezer fan, ironically begging frontman Rivers Cuomo to do a cover of Toto's massive 80s hit, Africa. The next year, the band ultimately trolled their own fan base, releasing a cover of a different Toto song. While the internet loved this and the lore kept growing, the fans kept demanding Africa. A week later, Weezer finally gave in and released a cover of Africa. The troll within a troll dimension here is that despite Weezer and Toto's stylistic differences, Weezer released the cover as a nearly identical, true to original take, rather than putting their own Weezer spin on it. While the trolling was there, this was all revolving around a single song, and not an elaborate hoax like what I'm suggesting with the Strokes. With generative AI being forced down our throats, 2025 found a slurry of fake bands and artificial songs taking over music platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. Wilco, Father John Misty, and Iron and Wine all had fake AI songs uploaded by scammers under their names. I even recently found an entire fake album upload on YouTube by a monetized account, entirely done by AI. Comparing back to my theory about the Strokes, ultimately, these are more unauthorized royalty scams than they are pranks administered by the actual bands. I want to pause here briefly for a little AI side quest if we can. In general, I'm not entirely against AI. I think it has a lot of merit when it comes down to it in the medical and scientific communities. I think there will be, countless breakthroughs over the coming years, hopefully in relation to cancer treatments and a lot of other diseases, finding the cures to things and just making people's lives and health better. I think that's important, and I think that's going to happen. When it comes to generative AI, though, I think, eliminating the creativity of the human experience, taking away the joy that we get out of creating, and rather than focusing on eliminating the mundane tasks that we have on a day-to-day basis and trying to take away our creativity, I can't support that. And it's absolutely trash for the environment. All of that aside, I wanted to run a mini test here for science. I went to ChatGPT, I uploaded an audio snippet from one of the singles, and I said, can you remove the Autotune from the vocals on this audio track? The response I got was that it's not entirely possible to remove something once it's already applied, but it can make enhancements and adjustments to the vocals to kind of tone it back. So I said, sure, let's at least try that. Here's the original snippet of audio that I gave to ChatGPT. After the prompt, here's what it came back with. Practically identical, right? Like next to no change. So I told it that. I said, this is, the same. Can you actually do what I asked you to do? It said, you're absolutely right. Let me try that again. Here it goes. What an incredible song, right? Like, doesn't that just sound like the Strokes without Autotune? The conclusion for the test, number one, we're not going to be able to know what Falling Out of Love actually sounds like without Autotune, unless the Strokes release that. And number two, AI kind of stinks. Of everything I came across, the closest thing to what I'm suggesting here with the Strokes is back in 2008, when singer-songwriter Ben Folds leaked a joke version of his album Way Too Normal. The main difference here is scale. Ben Folds never had the cachet that the Strokes have, nor was he intending to prank his entire fanbase. This was more a jab at the bootleggers who kept spoiling his album releases. Suffice to say, nothing like what I'm proposing today has been done before. My theory here with the Strokes is that all these auto-tune singles are just a highly elaborate prank to turn music outlets and their entire fanbase against them, before ultimately snapping back to reality and releasing an album that reminds everyone why they're so important. And with Arcade Fire rightfully knocked from their ivory tower, a big space was left vacant at the top of the world of rock. Now, let's review some specific evidence as it pertains to the Strokes. Some evidence 4. One of the most compelling bits of evidence, silly as this sounds, is that Autotune is so un-Strokesy. It's almost unfathomable to believe that these are truly the real mixes of the final songs. Given the band's history and the sound expected of them, this is why everyone freaked out to begin with. It's just the opposite of what people have come to expect. Evidence against Julian Casablancas' 2013 collaboration with Daft Punk on their single Instant Crush featured heavy vocal manipulation by Autotune or vocoder. Not to mention, he's also used it a fair amount with his experimental rock band, The Voids. That said, The Voids have always been an experimental outlet for Julian, and the Strokes, that's not what they're about. Evidence 4. The title for this upcoming album is Reality Awaits, as in the present state is not reality. Could this be a hint? Evidence against. Renowned producer Rick Rubin was at the helm for this album, and he had recently made some comments that were pro-AI in relation to music. Now, when I initially read these headlines, I was confused and concerned, but I dug a little bit deeper, and it's clear that Rick believes AI can never replace the artist's point of view. He's primarily supportive of it in relation to bringing people's creative ideas to life. All in all, if he's pro-AI as a tool to supercharge creativity, he's bound to be pro-Autotune as a tool to adapt vocals. Back to evidence 4. And this is where it's going to get a little fun and conspiratorial, so feel free to put on your tinfoil hats. Going Shopping, the song that kicked this all off, was released on April 7th. If they released it on April 1st, April Fool's Day, everyone would immediately assume it was an April Fool's joke, and the gotcha element would kind of cease to exist at that point. But April 7th as the release date to kick things off, technically the final day of the first week of April, meaning the final day of April Fool's Week, it's just far enough away from April 1st not to raise suspicions, but just perfectly close enough to potentially be a hint. Evidence against. The Strokes have been playing both Going Shopping and Falling Out of Love live with Autotune. That said, if you're going to commit to a long con that's going to blow everybody away, you've got to commit. Evidence 4. The current website for the Strokes looks like a GeoCities or Lycos website that was made back in 1992. And if you click on the screensaver link from the homepage, it pops up a window that cycles through some particularly interesting words, including listen, open your eyes, see, all running sequentially one after the other directly beneath a Strokes logo engulfed in flames. Could this be a hint? When I was looking around to see how long this website had been active and this particular page had been up, I came onto trusty Reddit and found out that this launched 3 years ago. While this may seem like an unlikely link, look at this post from the Strokes sub when it was first flagged that this website was live. One of the first comments there is essentially saying it's such a niche design choice that it's unlikely to not have some relation to a future music release. I tend to agree. If you're setting up a long con, you've got to lay the groundwork early. Evidence against. The Strokes mailed out 100 limited edition advanced copies of the Autotune version of Going Shopping on cassette to a select group of lucky fans. That said, if you're committing to a long con like I was just talking about, these would end up as truly remarkable collector's pieces. More evidence against. There's a cost associated with retaining professionals to mix and master alternate versions of the songs, not to mention the marketing team that would be hired to deploy the fake release, just for the sake of a giant hoax. However, this album is being released on Cult Records via RCA, so technically it does have major label marketing budget behind it. Evidence 4. A Ragebait gotcha like this would just kick so much ass and really solidify the Strokes back at the center of the rock universe. Evidence against. It would be extremely hard for a secret this big to not leak before the physical album release, which is coming up on June 26th. Now, when it comes down to it, do I really think that this is what the Strokes are doing for the release of Reality Awaits? No. Is this a band that has the attitude and impact to pull something like this off if they really wanted to? Honestly, yes. Most importantly, though, do I think we need to leave room for artists to evolve, change, and grow toward whatever light is the brightest to them at that time? Absolutely.
Don't think that everything is gonna stay the same. That's impossible.
Thanks for watching. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed, add a comment down below if you have any theories of your own, and subscribe to stick around for the change, growth, and evolution of this channel over the years to come. I'm Andrew. This was AC Accidental. Until next time. Okay, I know the video was supposed to end, but a few big updates came through very, very recently, just in the final days of editing, that I think are really worth calling out here. So number one, the release date for Reality Awaits was delayed. It was delayed by a month from June 26th to July 26th. The second thing is that the Strokes opened their Bonnaroo set over the weekend with Killing Lies, that song that we just heard about 30 seconds ago with those really poignant lyrics. So thinking about this, the release date being pushed back, what are the odds that this is still part of the prank? You know, put your tinfoil hat back on. This might still be part of the prank. They might now be making people think the album is coming a month later than it actually is, and they're going to drop it on June 26th without Autotune, and it's just going to blow everybody away. Like, how incredible would that be? That prank would just come off so well. The payoff there would be remarkable, and it would just blow everybody's minds. And then oppositely though, you know, looking at the Strokes opening their set with Killing Lies, maybe this really is just a completely new direction for them. Maybe the album delay has nothing to do with anything other than production issues or something like that. And them using that song to open up a big show like that, maybe that line in that song is a specific call out that they just want people to slowly perceive that this is a new direction. You cannot expect things to never change. It's impossible. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to find out either on June 26th or July 26th. Either everything's going to change or nothing's going to change, but ultimately this is going to be, a phenomenal reveal. Either way, I can't wait to see what happens. I'm really looking forward to it.